Mira Santos liked the hour just before the dawn trains started their rattle through Canal Street Station. The fluorescent tubes still flickered indifferently. Half-asleep pigeons shuffled on the rafters, and nobody hurried yet. In that pocket of hush, her violin could unfurl a note and hear itself echo back untouched, as though the vaulted concrete were a concert hall and not a funnel for exhaust and gossip. She always began with a scale, then a lullaby her grandmother used to hum in Tagalog. The tune glided over the rails onto the mezzanine, slipping beneath the turnstiles, soothing whatever restless thing hid in the circuitry of the station. By the time the first train hissed in at 5:12, the neon signs gleamed brighter, and the PA system emitted fewer crackles. Mira pretended that was coincidence, but deep down, she knew better. She had seen the station haunt breathe. 8 months earlier, she'd discovered them by accident. She had packed up after a slow night and was trudging toward the exit when the rails sang, a metallic vibrato rising from the dark tunnel. Out of the blackness surfaced an indistinct shimmer, overlapping silhouettes shaped like traffic cones, stoplights, horns, gear wheels, urban hieroglyphs lit from the inside by molten glass. They drifted above the tracks, conflicted and chaotic. When she raised her violin to test a note, the forms settled, recomposed, and their colors cooled from furnace orange to honey gold. She played a D major arpeggio. They pulsed in harmony, then dissolved into the iron. Afterward, she researched until her eyes blurred. Folklorists called them traffic spirits, emergent echoes of movement born wherever humans funneled kinetic energy through stone and steel. Normally invisible, they fed on vibrations. Soothed, they became guardians of flow. Aggravated, they wreaked mischief. Signal failures, phantom congestion, freak power surges. Every city had them, the scholars said, but few ever saw them. Fewer still could sing them to peace. Mira never told anyone outright. She simply returned each dawn and each dusk, giving the station a 10-minute serenade, and the trains began arriving less late, the elevators less prone to coughing into shutdown. Even the graffiti shifted from curses to florid love poems. Word spread among commuters that Canal Street felt lighter. Some tossed extra bills into her velvet case. Some just paused, breathing easier for a measure or two. And then came Lucas Trenholm, chief conductor of the Metropolitan Rapid Line and newly installed director of Commuter Experience. He appeared one Tuesday during rush hour, starched coat buttoned to the gorge, silver baton clipping at his hip like a saber. Mira noticed him because he did not notice her tip jar. Most passers-by spared at least a second look. He gazed instead at the ceiling speakers as if calculating decibels. Charming, he murmured when the piece ended, but inefficient. Mira raised an eyebrow. Music is for ears, not engines. On the contrary, he said, sound drives behavior, and behavior drives infrastructure. His eyes, gray and keen, swept the platform. How many passengers did your lullaby hurry onto that departing train? 8? 10? Imagine a melody that could make 30 cram in. I'm not selling cattle prods. He smiled politely and walked on, shoes clicking like castanets. The next evening, she found a laminated notice taped over her usual corner. Station maintenance. Area closed until further notice. Underneath lay a smear of some oily residue that made her violin strings quiver out of tune, even before she drew the bow. For 3 days she migrated between stairwells, chased by fresh notices. Meanwhile, the station speakers began disgorging a new audio feed, looping bass thumps laced with high-frequency stings. People frowned, shoulders tensed, conversation faltered. Yet they boarded trains with ruthless speed, elbows flying. Trenholm strolled the scene, stopwatch in hand, logging throughput uplift with self-congratulation radiating off his pressed lapels. Mira watched a mother snap at her toddler for dropping a toy. A man rammed a suitcase between closing doors, nearly breaking another passenger's wrist. The air fizzed as if the fluorescent ballast had turned to hornets. That night, signal cables in the tunnel south of Canal Street ignited like sparklers, delaying 3 lines for hours. Back at her 6th floor walk-up, Mira couldn't sleep. She felt the traffic spirit swirling restlessly beneath her mattress springs, disturbed by the racket above ground. At 3 a.m., She scrabbled through memoirs of ethnomusicologists, hoping for answers, until one article snagged her attention. The Doctrine of Harmonic Sovereignty. In 1897, a Reverend Whitcomb claimed that certain chord progressions could bind urban oidala to servitude. The treatise described a prototype device, a conductor's console, capable of amplifying discord to subdue spirits and thereby command crowds through manufactured agitation. She reread the name, Conductor's Console, Trenholm, the newly minted conductor. Coincidence crushed itself into dread. The next morning, Mira returned with her violin, despite the posted bans. She found a sympathetic janitor, Nadia, leaning on a mop beside the women's restroom. Nadia whispered that Trenholm had installed priority speakers, wired directly to a control booth under City Hall. Rumor said the new system hijacked ultrasonic bandwidth the old equipment never used. Only staff with bio-tagged badges could enter the booth. "Your music helped my anxiety attacks," Nadia added, voice trembling. "Now I can feel my skin buzz like static foam. Please, make him stop." Mira stared at the closed-circuit camera above, then at her violin. The maple had never looked fragile before. She asked, "Can you get me inside?" Nadia hesitated, then produced a ring of maintenance keys. "I can reach the service corridor. After that, we improvise." They timed their move for Saturday midnight, when weekend service ran skeleton crews. Nadia unlocked a grate behind a soda machine. The narrow passage smelled of ozone and rat poison. As they slipped in, Mira felt vibrations zipping through the concrete, snarls and screeches, arrhythmic stomps, snippets of minor chords sharpened to knives. The traffic spirits clustered like upset wasps, shapes jagged and red. Suddenly a deep pulse rolled down the corridor, nearly knocking them off balance. Mira recognized the rhythm, a distorted version of Mussorgsky's Night on Bald Mountain. Tempo doubled, intervals flattened to tritones. It pummeled the senses, empty of resolution. Trenholm had weaponized the console tonight. At the far end, a steel door glowed under red emergency bulbs. As they approached, a sensor chirped. Nadia swiped her badge, but the lock flashed angry yellow. "It's reading biometrics too," Nadia whispered. "Heartbeat, perspiration, vocal ID." "I'll distract it," Mira said. She raised her violin, fingers fumbling from nerves, and began the lullaby. The first phrase wobbled, but her bow settled as the melody wove through the corridor. Around them, the angry spirits paused, colors cooling to amber. The air seemed to shorten, as though exhaling at last. Mira modulated into a harmonic minor passage, coaxing calm. The sensor's lights flicked green for one beat, enough for Nadia to yank the handle before it snapped back to red. They slipped inside and found themselves in a circular chamber stuffed with amplifiers, patch bays, oscilloscopes, and a central podium holding a polished mahogany stand. Upon it lay the console, tangled coils of nickel wire around a crystalline rod, like a Tesla coil married a metronome. Each coil hummed a slightly different frequency, the dissonances aligning into an almost hypnotic terror. Trenholm stood behind the apparatus, baton poised. He didn't startle. "I anticipated resistance," he said. "Artists are sentimental about public domain airspace." Mira set her violin case on the floor. "You're torturing the city. I'm liberating potential." He gestured to a monitor. Graphs scrolled, ridership per minute, retail transactions per corridor, penalty fees collected from hurried mistakes. These spikes are symphonies of efficiency. Efficiency isn't peace. Peace breeds stagnation. Trenholm tapped the console. "Whitcomb failed because he used hymnals. I employ market analytics. Each discord I broadcast provokes micro-stress, triggering speed. Add a bright jingle in the refreshment plaza, and wallets pop open seeking dopamine compensation. It is the music of modern governance." Nadia spat. "You're making everyone miserable." "Briefly uncomfortable," he corrected. "But the algorithm modulates level once targets complete desired actions. My data shows average commuter mood returns to baseline within 90 minutes. "Not counting the spirits you've enraged," Mira said. Trenholm's brows lifted. "Ah, you see them too." He swiveled a dial. A nearby scope displayed silhouettes of the traffic spirits, once golden, now black outlined sparks thrashing. They are raw energy. Harness them and the system nearly runs itself. Outside, a rumble traveled through the floor. 2, 3 simultaneous train cars grinding to emergency stops. Lights in the chamber flickered. The spirits on the screen bled into angry blotches. "You've overplayed the movement," Mira warned. "Give it a rest before the finale crushes you." "Never fear," Trenholm said. He struck the stand with his baton, triggering a sub-bass wave that rattled the consoles. Mira felt her chest cavity vibrate uncomfortably. Nadia clutched the wall. Mira opened her violin case. "You're not the only one with a sound system." Trenholm laughed. "That toothpick versus my orchestra? Sweet, but naive." Mira placed the violin against her collarbone. She inhaled, recalling dawn hush, grandmother's hum. She began a simple G major progression, piano, then crescendo. The first notes curled through the air like candle smoke. She closed her eyes and pictured the station 30 feet above. Tile mosaics, immigrant footsteps, morning light slivering down stairwells. The tune gathered momentum, chords swelling until the room itself began to resonate. Standing waves formed between machinery racks, displacing the metallic roar. Nadia straightened, shoulders uncoiling. On the monitor, traffic spirit silhouettes shifted, red edges blurring toward gold. Trenholm's jaw tightened. He spun a gain knob, injecting screeching feedback. Mira's bow skittered across strings, almost losing pitch, but she pivoted to a modal variation, weaving dissonance into resolution, letting her melody swallow the feedback and transmute it. The trick wasn't to deny noise, it was to offer it home in harmony. The spirits responded. From vents and cable ducts, they streamed into the chamber, luminous helixes merging with the sonic currents. Air thickened like phosphorescent fog. Trenholm tried to twist another dial, but tiny whirlwinds smacked his hands. The console crackled. "All right," he barked. "Funny, but you can't override me. The security lockdown will engage." He slammed a red lever. Metal shutters clanked over exits, locking them in. Alarms howled, mixing minor second intervals with klaxon bleats, etching panic lines across Nadia's face. Mira's melody faltered. Trenholm seized a headset, fingers flying over the control surface. The chamber's acoustics twisted, scattering echo back at Mira like hailstones, drowning her bow's nuance. She retreated 2 steps, chest hammering. She could barely hear herself. Overload lights flared on racks, sparks popped. Then she remembered the article's footnote. Harmonic sovereignty dissolves under authenticity. If the song is carried by more than one soul in common living rhythm, no artificial discord can wholly suppress it. Common rhythm. She looked at Nadia, who knelt by a fuse box, shaking. Mira began the lullaby again, but this time deliberately quiet so Nadia could recognize it. Nadia blinked, mouth whispering the tune wordlessly. She pressed her palm to the concrete, tapping gentle beats as Mira played. The tapping amplified through the floor, a percussive soft heart. Mira sustained a suspended fourth, inviting. The spirits drifted around Nadia, cocooning her in amber. In the far corner, a second door rattled. A transit cop banged from the other side, drawn by the alarms. Through the grate, she saw his lips forming cusses. Mira vaulted the melody across to him, embedding the rhythm in the metal. Subconsciously, he picked it up, pounding a matching pattern. 3 souls, 1 living rhythm. The room's hateful feedback fractured. Mira's violin sang true, threading through cracks. The console's coils shifted tone, magnetized by the new dominant frequency. Trenholm shouted, slamming every button. A blue arc spat from the crystal rod, scorching a monitor. The lights blinked out. Emergency LEDs glowed crimson. Mira modulated to the major key, weightless yet irrevocable. The traffic spirits swarmed the console like fireflies, their luminous wings short-circuiting the nickel coils. A piercing chime rose, overtaking everything. A harmonic overtone series climbing, unstoppable. With a crack like breaking glass, the console imploded. Shards of crystal scattered, sizzling out. The alarms silenced. The door bolts thunked open of their own accord. Faint above, through layers of infrastructure, came restored sounds, rails humming evenly, announcement chimes and friendly triads, a toddler laughing. The station breathed again. Trenholm sagged to his knees amid debris, face a portrait of indignant disbelief. In the new quiet, he seemed shrunken, a man stripped of baton and echo. Transit cops burst through, shouting orders. Nadia hurried toward Mira, who clutched her violin as if it were a heartbeat. One officer surveyed the ruin. "What in hell happened here?" Nadia answered. "Feedback malfunction. The conductor overclocked the system." Mira added, voice steady. Luckily, the maintenance staff responded and averted further damage. The cop eyed Trenholm, who stammered about sabotage, but nothing in the room supported him. Only scorched equipment, unauthorized modifications, and the registered key card around his neck. A week later, city papers ran headlines about subway psyop scandal and conductor's resignation. Internal audits revealed doctored performance metrics, embezzled budget lines, and unsafe decibel levels. Trenholm vanished from press conferences. Rumor claimed he took a consulting gig overseas, but no station manager would touch him once the union circulated transcripts of his own voice bragging about auditory cattle prods. The Metropolitan Rapid Line quietly dismantled his remains of the priority system. In its place, they invited independent musicians to audition for rotating sets in key stations. Mira declined the formal program. Paperwork made her itch, but accepted an honorary badge allowing her to play without harassment. Nadia got promoted to Assistant Supervisor of Environmental Wellness, a title both grand and vague enough to include protecting unseen spirits. One drizzle-cool dawn, several weeks later, Nadia met Mira on the Canal Street platform. Commuters shuffled with coffee, some half listening. Mira tuned her violin. The station felt balanced, yet traces of lingering tension coiled beneath. Leftover trauma in rivets and cables. Nadia tilted her head as if hearing them. "Will they heal?" she asked. "They're like bruises," Mira said. "Music speeds the blood." She raised the bow. The first note, warm and tender, diffused through tile and steel. Conversations softened mid-sentence. The coffee kiosk owner paused, grinding beans, letting the aroma bloom. A cluster of teenagers arguing over headphones broke into shy smiles. Overhead, a pigeon cooed in time. A shimmering glow seeped from the tracks. Traffic spirits bathed in calm topaz. They traced invisible arabesques, then vanished before anyone noticed. Mira continued playing, weaving dawn into sound until the arriving train doors opened like polite applause. One businessman lingered, eyes closed, missing his train by choice. When he reopened them, Mira ended on a pianissimo harmonic. He tucked a 20 into her case and whispered, "Thank you." The city felt kinder for a moment. "It can stay that way," she replied, "if we all keep listening." As the train pulled out, its wheels produced a gentle G major clatter, matching her key. The rails sparkled beneath fluorescence, no longer a mere conduit for hurry, but an orchestra of daily journeys waiting for a reason to play together. Mira dipped her bow once more, inviting the morning to sing itself forward in tune.